The knock came at a bad time, right? When Emily Carter finally admitted to herself that she had no money left. The sun was going down outside her small apartment in Portland, Oregon, and the room felt too quiet, too still, like it was waiting for something to break. Her laptop sat open on the kitchen table, showing the same numbers she had stared at all day. Zero in her bank account. 3 days past due on rent. No miracles coming. She didn't need to look through the peephole to know who it was. Emily stood frozen, her heart pounding. In the United States, missing rent didn't just mean being light hit. Meant warnings, letters, and sometimes losing everything. She had lived here for 3 years, paid on time every month, kept the place clean, followed the rules. None of that seemed to matter now. The knock came again. Calm but firm. She took a breath, straightened her sweater, and opened the door. Daniel Brooks stood there, tall and serious, holding a folded document in one hand. Behind him were 2 strangers, a man and a woman, who looked professional, the kind of people who spoke carefully and rarely smiled without reason. The hallway light cast long shadows, and Emily felt suddenly exposed. Like her private struggle had stepped into the open. "I know why you're here," Emily said quickly, before anyone else could speak. Her voice shook, but she didn't stop. "I lost my job. I'm trying to fix it. I just need more time." Daniel looked at her, not angry, not cold, just quiet. "Emily, we're not here to argue." That sentence confused her more than anything else. He introduced the others as Mark and Susan, his friends who helped him manage his properties. Emily stepped aside and let them in, her chest tight as they looked around the apartment. It was small but clean. A few framed photos on the wall, a second-hand couch, books stacked near the window. Nothing fancy, nothing careless. They sat at the dining table, and Emily stayed standing like she was waiting for a verdict. Susan opened her folder and spoke first. "We reviewed your lease and your payment history." Emily nodded, bracing herself. "You've never missed a payment," Susan continued. "Not once." Emily's throat tightened. "I didn't plan to start now." Daniel folded his hands on the table. "I believe you." That surprised her. Most people didn't believe anything once money was involved. Daniel explained that he had noticed changes, Molly working late, packages arriving, fewer lights off at night. He didn't say it like an accusation, but like an observation. Like he had been paying attention. "We wanted to talk before making any decisions," he said. Emily finally sat down. Her legs felt weak. Daniel took a slow breath. "We're offering a temporary rent adjustment. 3 months. Reduced payments. No penalties." For a moment, Emily thought she misheard him. "What?" she asked. Susan slid a paper toward her. "It gives you time to get back on your feet." Emily stared at the document, her hands trembling. Relief hit her so hard it almost hurt. Tears filled her eyes, but she forced them back. Crying felt dangerous. Like if she started, she wouldn't stop. "Why would you do this?" she asked quietly. Daniel met her eyes. "Because you're trying. And because everyone deserves a little understanding." The meeting ended shortly after. Mark and Susan left with polite nods, leaving Daniel and Emily alone in the apartment. The air felt different now, lighter but charged with something unspoken. "I didn't expect this," Emily said. Daniel stood near the door. "Neither did I." He looked around once more, then back at her. "Take care of yourself, Emily." After he left, Emily closed the door and leaned against it, letting out a breath she felt like she'd been holding for months. She didn't know what would happen next. But she knew one thing: something had changed. Over the next few days, life didn't magically improve. Emily still had to work hard, sending applications, taking small freelance jobs, stretching every dollar. But the fear wasn't crushing her anymore. She slept better. She ate regular meals again. Hope had quietly returned. Daniel checked in once, then again, always respectful, always brief. Fixing a loose cabinet hinge. Dropping off a notice about scheduled maintenance. Nothing personal, nothing crossed. Still, Emily noticed the way he listened when she spoke. Like her words mattered. One evening, as rain fell softly outside, Emily sat by the window and thought about how close she had come to losing everything. One missed payment, one knock on the door, and instead of anger, she had been met with patience. She didn't know why Daniel cared. She only knew that in a moment when the world felt sharp and unforgiving, someone had chosen kindness, and that made all the difference. The next knock at the door felt different. Emily Carter had learned to brace herself, but this time it wasn't fear that made her pause. It was a strange flutter in her chest, a mix of curiosity and something she didn't want to name. She opened the door and saw Daniel Brooks standing there, alone this time. The hallway light highlighted the sharp lines of his face, calm yet deliberate. It wasn't business. She could tell immediately. "I wanted to talk to you," Daniel said softly, his voice steady but carrying weight. Emily nodded and stepped aside, letting him in. The apartment smelled faintly of coffee, a comfort she hadn't noticed before. She gestured toward the couch and he sat down, leaving space between them, respectful, careful. Her hands trembled slightly as she poured herself a cup of tea. Daniel didn't start with small talk. He looked at her with a quiet intensity. "I have something to tell you," he said. "It's not easy, and it might change things." Emily's heart skipped a beat. She had been preparing for news she didn't want: eviction, another warning, more complications. Anything but what she hoped for secretly. He took a breath. "I've accepted a job offer in Seattle. I'll be moving soon, and I'm selling the building." Emily froze mid-sip, the tea steaming in her hands. Her mind raced through months of late nights, overdue bills, and quiet hope. Now it felt fragile. "Oh," she whispered. Nothing else came out. Her chest tightened, but she kept her voice steady. Daniel leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "I wanted to tell you before anyone else. And I wanted to ask if you'd consider staying in touch. Not as landlord and tenant, just two people who met in a place they didn't expect to, at a time neither planned, and maybe found something worth keeping." Emily blinked, trying to understand. She felt a strange warmth spread through her, confusing and comforting all at once. "I'd like that," she said quietly. Her voice barely carried across the room, but Daniel heard it. Days passed and life felt different. The temporary rent relief meant she could focus on work again, but it was the small moments that mattered. Daniel would check in occasionally, never overstepping. A package delivered, a light fixture fixed, a cup of coffee left at her door. Each gesture quiet, thoughtful. Emily told herself it was nothing, just professional courtesy. But in the silence of her apartment, she noticed the way he listened when she spoke. How he seemed genuinely interested in her small victories and setbacks. One rainy afternoon, Emily found herself staring out the window, thinking about how fragile life felt and how much could change in a single knock on the door. She remembered the moment Daniel had offered her grace when she felt she had no one. It wasn't money or business. It was recognition, respect, belief in her ability to keep going. She felt a shift inside her. Her fear was replaced with a cautious hope, a lightness she hadn't allowed herself to feel in months. It was tempting, dangerous even, to imagine what life could be with someone like Daniel in it. Not just as a landlord, great, but as a person who saw her, really saw her. The evenings became a mix of work, quiet reflection, and occasional texts from Daniel checking in. Each message was short, polite, caring. She noticed herself smiling more often, a warmth spreading through her chest she couldn't explain fully. It wasn't just relief about rent, it was the sense of being noticed, valued, seen. Then one evening, after a long day of freelance work, she found Daniel waiting outside her apartment. The rain had softened, leaving the streets glistening and quiet. He held a small umbrella, not offering it but simply standing there, waiting for her to notice. "I wanted to say goodbye properly," he said, his tone calm but edged with something deeper. Emily's stomach nodded. She had been expecting a casual note, a brief message, but this felt personal. Okay," she managed. She stepped outside, the damp chill making her shiver slightly, but she didn't care. She wanted to hear him, wanted this moment, even though she didn't know why it mattered so much. Daniel looked down the street, then back at her. Portland will feel different when I'm gone. I wanted you to know that your strength, your perseverance, it didn't go unnoticed. You're capable of more than you realize. Emily's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them away, forcing herself to listen. Thank you, she whispered. Words felt small, insufficient, but they were all she could manage. He smiled faintly, that gentle, steady expression that had comforted her from the beginning. I hope this isn't the end of our story, he said. Sometimes the right people meet at the wrong time, but maybe that doesn't mean it's the wrong thing. Emily felt her chest tighten, a mix of hope, fear, and longing. I hope not, she said. When he left, she closed the door slowly, leaning against it. The rain had stopped completely, leaving a clean, quiet calm over the city. Her heart was still racing, her mind spinning, but she felt lighter. For the first time in months, she didn't feel alone. She realized something important. Life could be harsh, unforgiving, unpredictable. But moments like these acts of kindness, understanding, quiet connection, they were proof that even in the worst times, people could care, could notice, could offer grace. Over the following weeks, Emily focused on herself. She worked harder, applied for more opportunities, allowed herself small joys: a walk in the park, coffee with a friend, a quiet evening with a book. Yet Daniel's presence lingered, subtle and comforting, like a quiet melody at the edge of her awareness. One afternoon, she found herself texting him about a small success at work. His reply came quickly, short but encouraging. She smiled, realizing how much she valued his support. It wasn't romantic in the traditional sense, yet it was deeper, steady, meaningful. She knew life wouldn't always be easy. Bills would come due. Work would fluctuate. Challenges would return. But now, Emily carried something with her that felt unshakable. Someone who had believed in her when she had little left to offer. Someone who had treated her with respect and care. And someone whose presence made even ordinary days feel lighter. The story of her struggle with rent, her fear of losing everything, and the unexpected grace she received had changed her. It hadn't just been about money. It had been about connection, trust, and hope. Daniel's gesture, small yet profound, reminded her that even in moments of desperation, life could surprise her with compassion and possibility. Emily leaned back in her chair, looking out at the Portland skyline as the evening sun dipped behind the buildings. The city, full of strangers and stories, felt smaller, warmer, and somehow safer. She felt a quiet smile spread across her face. She didn't know what the future held, whether Daniel would stay in her life, or whether fate would pull them in different directions, but she knew she had strength she hadn't fully realized before. And for the first time in months, Emily allowed herself to imagine a life where challenges didn't break her, but shaped her, where moments of kindness could spark hope, where someone could see her, not as a tenant behind on rent, but as a person worth believing in. She picked up her phone, typed a short message to Daniel, paused, and sent it. Simple, careful words. A connection maintained. A door left open. And as the city lights flickered on, Emily felt the quiet, steady pull of something new: possibility, connection, maybe even love. One knock, one act of grace, one moment of understanding had changed everything. And she knew deep in her heart that sometimes life's most meaningful stories begin with the unexpected, the unplanned, and the gentle courage to care. Emily smiled to herself and whispered softly, almost as if saying it aloud would make it real. Maybe everything is going to be okay after all. She had survived the fear, the uncertainty, the sleepless nights. And now she was ready to step into whatever came next, stronger, braver, and quietly hopeful.